Welcome to Black Nouveau. This is our edition for March 1st, 2017. I'm Joanne Williams. March is Women's History Month. Milwaukee author Mary J. Dowell joins us to discuss her book, Playing Through the Fence. You may not know Ed Welburn by name, but you have seen his designs on many General Motors cars. We'll have a profile. In the spring of 1994, over 1 million people lost their lives in the genocide in Rwanda. We'll talk with a survivor.
Blood.
This weekend kicks off the 28th annual week of prayer for the healing of AIDS. We'll tell you about activities in and around Milwaukee. You know, Dr. Lester Carter was born in Omaha, Nebraska, and received his pharmacy degree from Creighton University. But for almost 50 years, he's been the only black pharmacy owner in Milwaukee. James Causey has more.
Is there any itching or discomfort or any? That's no problem. We can get that cleared up. With this antifungal preparation, apply a very thin film using a Q-tip, part the hair, apply it 3 times a day, shampoo it twice a week with just any cleansing shampoo. Doesn't have to be any expensive medicated, just something to keep it clean.
This is Dr. Lester Carter's trademark, his personal interest in his customers and their concerns. It's the kind of medicine he administered since he opened up his pharmacy on the corner of 24th and Burleigh in 1968. Back then, the neighborhood was mostly white and German.
I can look up and down 24th Street and just recall so many of the families, the German families that lived in different houses, that would invite me over during the Christmas holidays for cookies and milk and whatever. And it was just a total different makeup.
The previous owner helped him win over the neighbors.
Mr. Arthur H. Mell taught me. He said, now listen carefully. I want to be able to get you accepted by the German people who weren't accustomed to a black pharmacist here. He says, when the ladies come in the morning and you want to greet them, instead of saying good morning, you say, Wie geht's, mein Frau? Okay, that meant good morning, ma'am. I said, well, how about when the fellas come in? He says, when the fellas come in, you stand straight and tall, look them in the eye, and say, Wie geht's, mein Herr? I said, well, what can I lose? Okay. So when they came in the morning, and I greeted them that way, they'd look at me and say, well, God, this guy can't be all bad if he speaks German. After that, it was all love.
And when the neighborhood changed, Dr. Carter felt compelled to stay.
This is where I was most needed. The people who have medical challenges and all types of other challenges, I felt this area was where I was mostly needed, and with the education that I was fortunate enough to get at Creighton, I figured this would be the ideal place to use that education to help restore the health of the people and to maintain the health of the people.
He also researched, developed, and manufactured natural medicinals he says will help medical conditions not properly addressed by drug manufacturers.
A lady came into the store about, maybe about 8-9 years ago. Tears streaming down her face. I said, oh my Lord, what's going on? I just got back from seeing the doctor, and I was diagnosed with a cancerous condition that the doctor thought looked pretty grim.
Dr. Carter did some research and discovered some natural remedies he felt might stop the progress of cancerous cells.
And she decided to start on everything that I recommended. She was in about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, said she'd just come back from the doctor and said she was 100% cancer-free. 100% cancer-free.
The drugstore carries a variety of products. You have a lot of interesting things in your store. You have the Red Devil books that tell you how to look at numbers and what the numbers and the dreams mean. And you have special candles. Do you believe in these things?
Well, here's the thing. It's not what I believe in. It's what the customer has faith in. And for me to tell Miss Smith or Miss Jones, you should not have faith in this, that, or other, that is not appropriate. See, if they have faith in whatever item that they're getting, using, it's not up to me to tell them that that's not going to be beneficial to you.
In 2014, Dr. Carter had some medical issues, and he lost his wife. He sold a store to the local Hyatt chain in July, but in February 2015, he was right back on a job on a limited basis.
When I agreed to allow Hyatt to take over, and I said I would still come in to help him out, I made an agreement. I would work till I'm 100, but then I want a day off. And they agreed with me.
Playing Through the Fence is a collection of reflections from women who challenged and overcame obstacles in their personal and professional lives. It was written by Mary Dowell, who faced her own set of challenges, and she joins us now here on Black Nouveau. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. What kind of challenges did you face in your career? You worked at Johnson Controls for a long time.
I worked for Johnson Controls for almost 20 years, but I worked in other organizations, companies prior to that, so I have a very extensive career. And some of the challenges that one faced are, if I just try to select one, I will say that being one, female, and two, being an African American female, whatever those challenges and barriers in particularly corporate America, sometimes they're doubled. So you have to learn how to navigate those obstacles, and that's what I did. And thus writing the book, and we'll talk a little bit more about that.
And you didn't let them stop you, though.
Oh, no, no. That was the one thing that is about the book, is that the 19 women gave their stories of a time they faced an adversity and overcame. And even though they're all with different backgrounds and different circumstances, the one thing that they all had in common was their ability to persevere and to break through. So yes, I absolutely persevered, and that's what I want to convey to women everywhere, that there are challenges, though there are obstacles, but we have the ability to break through, and there are some ways to help us do that.
Give me one way to do that. Is it hope? Is it never give upness? What is it?
It's never give up. It's taking risk. Is choosing. Just know that whenever there is a barrier or an obstacle, you have a choice. You don't have to be overcome by that obstacle. And the women in my book and myself had obstacles, but we also had choices, and we all chose the path of opportunity.
Are some of the women in the book people that we know?
Oh, absolutely. There are 19 women, including myself, and all except 2 are here local to Milwaukee, which is fantastic. These are very accomplished women and who were gracious enough to provide a story to my book of a time that they did overcome.
So who would I know in this book besides you?
Oh, my Faith Colas.
Yes.
Maria Monreal Cameron, Kimberly Noon, Margaret Henningsen, just to name a few. I hate to start naming, but there are several women that you will absolutely, Christy Garcia Thomas, Maggie Beckley.
When you write a book, there's a moment where you say, okay, I'm going to do it. When did that happen, and when did you start writing this book?
Very good question. For me, writing the book was what I refer to as my moment of divine inspiration. It was not that I wanted or it was on my bucket list to write a book. I never really thought about writing a book. But when that came to me, I did move forward and started a journey to write the book. And at the time, even though I moved forward, I wasn't sure why I was doing it. I think when you have divine inspirations, you don't always know what the ultimate plan is. But I now truly understand why. And that is to inspire women. And it's to inspire women to be fearless leaders, to realize their dreams, to take paths of opportunity. So it's a book of inspiration. That's what it's for. Paying it forward, inspiring women to be better, to be the best, to be their best selves.
How long did it take you to write it?
Over 8 years.
8 years?
Yes. When that moment of inspiration happened, I was still in the workforce. I just retired in 2015. But from that point on, I didn't have really the time that it takes to write a book. And though it sounds easy, it is not easy to write a book. And because I had 18 other women that were part of this, all of that coordination and working to get that, it took some time.
Okay, so if I want to get this book, I know I can get it at the public library because I've looked it up.
Yes.
But all the copies were out. How else can I get? How else can I get Playing Through the Fence?
Boswell, Hensel House, my publisher.
Yeah,
so
well,
several outlets.
There are places to get it. Thank you
Yes.
very much for coming and talking to us today, Mary Dowell, about the book Playing Through the Fences.
My country was once called the land of milk and honey, but overnight it has become a land of blood and sorrow. I look down and see dead bodies at my feet. In the distance, people wail as they are being slaughtered. Whistles blown right into massacres echo across the hills. My small body trembles. I'm sweating. I'm just a child. What have I done to be hunted this way?
These Milwaukee Tech High School students are listening to passages read from a book entitled Embracing Survival. The author, Dydine Umunyana, travels the country sharing her story of surviving the 1994 Rwandan genocide, a genocide that took place when she was 4 years old.
It was horrifying, it was terrifying, and those 100 days was just blood everywhere and ashes. And
these killings took place in her country, Rwanda, located in Central Eastern Africa, and was brought to light in the movie Hotel Rwanda.
Daddy, there are soldiers on the streets.
They're killing everyone. It's a massacre.
Think about your world today, and you think about then. Does it seem far away, or does it seem like a dream state?
when I think for me it feels like yesterday. Yeah, and yeah, it feels like yesterday. It feels like it's part of my life. It's part of my history. And whatever I do is it connects to that. But how can I make the world a better place? Because I know a world without peace, how it looks like. Entire villages had burned and the country was in ashes. Those who had survived were in pain, not only physical, but psychological. There was no time for families to grieve, no time to commemorate the dead or bury their bodies.
Padit Kaleka, whose family has seen tragedy, the 2012 Oak Creek Sikh temple shooting, helps students to understand what Umunyana has gone through.
The amount of cows you have. You're 5 years old by now.
Yes.
And so the 100 days is done, and Dad had lived through it, but there was something else that was happening to Dad. And there was something else that was happening to the entire family. Trauma is such that it affects everybody around us as well.
And PTSD affected her father, who had been a soldier.
I always blamed my father. I never even knew that he had PTSD. For me, I thought he was just not a good parent. But when I heard that someone can come from war and get traumatized by war, that's when I sat down and realized that's what my father has.
This illness led her family to live through domestic abuse and is a growing problem that her country once overlooked.
Because sometimes when you're still struggling, you don't have the time to think what's happening to you. And then that now as the country is moving forward and people are having a little better life, or are you having a wedding and you realize there's no one there, then that's where it really gets to people. That's where people lose their mind.
She felt this genocide occurred because of the social classes created by those who had colonized them, that same system used in Germany during the Jewish Holocaust. It created a class system, categorizing by appearance and giving people IDs, which identified them as Hutu or Tutsi. She feels her country is moving from that.
Giving people new ID cards without tribes, without ethnics, without categorizing them, and just give them as Rwandans. For me, that was the biggest step, because they knew what that divisionism, what hatred, and got us to mass killing.
After years of suffering from the anger and the sadness, some are starting to accept what happened to them and move forward.
I will not say that everyone is like that. I will not say the whole country is perfect. And it's only 22 years. And there's still so much work to do. It will probably take generations and generations to be able to clean up that mess that we made. So we try little by little. It would take us more. Of course, sometimes we want to rush things, but it doesn't work that way.
Dydine Umunyana, survival techniques.
I had a way of writing. I loved writing my emotions. I will, even if I would be angry or sad, I will write it and cry on that piece of paper. And probably that also helped me. And singing. So those little things I liked when I was growing up, they're things that helped me. Killing a child or an elderly person who is Tutsi, it wasn't.
For more of Dydine Umunyana presentation at Milwaukee Tech High School and interview, go to www.milwaukeepbs.org and go to Black Nouveau.
This Sunday begins the 28th annual Week of Prayer for the Healing of HIV and AIDS. We're joined now by Jim Addison of the Black Health Coalition of Wisconsin. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
That's a long time to have been praying to change the attitudes and the results of this disease. Why did it get started in the first place? Why weren't the churches realizing what needed to be done?
Well, it actually started in the healthcare field. There was a nursing professional in the city of Harlem, New York, who unfortunately found a lot of the HIV patients at that time, HIV positive patients at that time, were kept in the basement of the hospital in which they were being cared for. And it just struck a nerve in her to go to her faith community in Harlem there and just ask them to pray for folks that she knew were not being treated very well living with HIV and AIDS. And so it just grew into this education and awareness campaign that we have today worldwide.
Not all churches were on board at the beginning. Not all churches are on board now. How do you convince them that this is something in which they should participate?
Well, what we do is we just keep sharing the message. We keep sharing the need, and as time goes on, the number of churches that participate increases. Sometimes it may be a pastor or a church family that has somebody living with HIV in their congregation, and sometimes that changes your heart and makes you more open to it. But our role is to keep letting them know the need exists, and then work with those who are ready to work with us in any capacity.
There's still here in 2017 a stigma about HIV and
Absolutely.
AIDS. How do we overcome that?
Well, just keep talking about it, keep educating with love, And I've just seen over time it's getting better. Long way to go, but we're getting better. It's not the way as bad as it used to be, where we could say the churches weren't doing anything. We can't say that anymore, but we still can't say we're doing enough. And so the need for this week of prayer still exists.
How about the people who are affected by HIV/AIDS? Are the demographics changed? Is it still just young men?
I wouldn't say just young men, but the vast majority are young men who have sex with men. But that's still, we don't want to leave any other population unsuspecting, because when we say it's one population, we don't want anybody to be vulnerable to think that since they're not in that population, that they still can't be vulnerable to HIV.
Well, how are you going to tell people about your message? What kind of activities do you have planned during this week?
During the week, we're going to have churches where the pastor is going to preach a message on HIV and AIDS. We're going to have some churches who are going to be doing fundraisers, choirs. We're also going to have people praying. That's going to be the basic thing that they do. You know, churches already have existing prayer times, so they're committing to us that during that prayer time, they're going to call out people living with HIV and AIDS. And they're going to also have display of information in their churches on a table or whatnot, and have information in their bulletin. So it's going to be a wide-ranging number of activities that go on that week.
How many churches do you think will be participating?
Well, we're going to have churches in Milwaukee, we're going to have churches in Racine, Madison, and also Beloit, where there are pockets of African Americans. We guess about 80 to 85 churches that are participating in some form or fashion.
So when folks go to church on Sunday, they should think of this?
We'd like for them to, yes, and then come to the event.
Yes. Thank you very much for coming and joining us today. Jim Addison from the Black Health Coalition, talking about the Week of Prayer.
My pleasure. Thank you.
It is the end of an era at General Motors and in the automotive design world. Ed Welburn, the global vice president of design, has retired. While to some, that may not mean a lot. His legacy of achievement, however, is worth noting. Welburn is the first African-American to become the chief stylist and designer for a major automotive company. Even at the zenith of his career, the Berwyn, Pennsylvania native is self-effacing about his accomplishments.
You ask me if I'm comfortable with being a trailblazer, African-American designer. I'm not sure that I am totally comfortable with that handle. There's a certain responsibility that goes along with that. Huge responsibility, and at times, that can be challenging.
Welburn faced those challenges head-on when he joined GM in 1972 after graduating from Howard University. A sculpture and design product major, he plunged headlong into the process, first doing sketches on the details of automobiles, and then growing in the position while aware of his surroundings and the corporate culture of the auto industry.
And I know everyone's watching, whether it was Ed Welburn as a rookie designer doing sketches, signing my name, putting it on the display board and everyone looking at it, or Ed Welburn, the first chief designer at one of our studios, or Ed Welburn, executive director, or Ed Welburn, vice president of global design. I do think there's a responsibility that goes along with that, and it's a responsibility that I willingly take on.
Over the course of his career at General Motors, Welburn started in the advanced design realm and then moved over to working on the Buick brand for several years. During this time, he came to a realization about the relationship between drivers and their cars, even at a time when many millennials claim not to have a desire to drive a car.
There's an emotional connection that a person has with their vehicle. It's an extension of their personality. Now, everyone's got a very different personality, and that's why we have a variety of vehicles in the marketplace. But with the advanced vehicles of the future, the autonomous vehicles, I really see a wide variety of products that can come out of that.
Many of the products he foresees can trace their origins to the concept cars GM has presented over the past few years, with Welburn as the face of the company during the presentations.
Technology has changed vehicles in many ways. Example I can use, I love my old 69 Camaro, but it is clearly not as much fun to drive as the latest Camaros that are out. And so I think that's a great example. And as I look at the technologies that are developing, I can't wait. I can't wait to see those technology is a part of the vehicles that we drive or ride in.
While he will officially be retired, Wellburn won't be sitting still. Besides working on a book and other consulting, he will also be leading the team developing the next Global Design Center for General Motors. That's something that fits into a personal vision of his automotive legacy.
If I were to write my own legacy, big picture, it would be all about developing a seamless global design organization, of which there are 10 or 11 studios around the world that work together. That collaboration between a creative designer and a creative engineer is a huge part of my legacy. And I think really, though, at the end of the day is creating an environment in which everyone feels free to create, to express themselves, to bring forward their great ideas, no matter what their background may be.
And that's our program for tonight. As we leave you, we want to share some of the art that you can see at the Wisconsin Black Historical Society. It's called Urban Heroes, Urban Wood, and it's on display through March 17th. It's the Fresh Perspective Art Collective's salute to many of Milwaukee's Black history makers. Next week, we'll tell you more about that exhibit. I'm Joanne Williams. Thanks for watching.